Hello friends, for today's video I have a number of books that I've gotten as of late, either through pre-orders that have finally come in or books that I picked up from my local bookstores. So I wanted to go through all of those. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different than I typically do with a book haul, as usually book hauls are specific to physical copies. But today I am going to start by mentioning a few audiobooks, which I know is a little outside the norm and not as exciting as holding up a beautiful copy of a book. But the reason I wanted to mention this is because whenever I do book hauls, I always like to shout out my local bookstores, and recently there was an indie bookstore day, which kind of turned into indie bookstore week. Some bookstores ended up having sales that lasted for a number of days, and that was true for my local bookstore, Changing Hands. And if you don't know, which I'm sure most of you do, especially if you watch my channel because I mention it quite often, but the audiobook service Libro FM, you can actually attach your Libro FM account to an indie bookstore. If you don't have any in your area, you can select one to support. And I love supporting Changing Hands because I think they're great in general, and they're my local bookstore. If you'd like to check them out for yourself, you can. This isn't sponsored or anything. I just love my indie bookstores. But regardless, Libro FM, in partnership with Changing Hands, had an audiobook sale, and there were so many great books that were available through that sale. When I say great books available, what I mean is that I have a Libro FM account, and typically how it works is it is a really good and comparable competitor to something like Audible. The price is the same for a monthly subscription, but a monthly subscription is still $15 a month, which is reasonable for an audiobook. But sometimes you will find audiobook sales where you can just buy the book instead of using a credit, and you can buy it for a lot less than what that credit is. And that's what they were doing for this particular indie bookstore week, or indie bookstore day, but it lasted a week, and there were so many different books available. I ended up picking up some of the books from the Turmoil series. I never had the opportunity to complete the entirety of this story, so I do want to go back through, reread at the beginning, and then finally finish it up. This is by Naomi Novik. They were on sale for just a few dollars each. And then I also pre-ordered an audiobook for a new fantasy release that I'm really excited about. I do anticipated releases every single month for the upcoming month. And when I was doing anticipated releases for the month of April, I mentioned the book The Floating World. I think this sounds fantastic, but I also am saying this by just pretty much having the tagline synopsis rather than the full synopsis because I don't want to know too much. And within that small chunk, it said that it has some things about it that make it similar to Final Fantasy. A lot of you know I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy, so if you say something similar, you got me. We'll see. I'll find out for myself when I pick it up if I agree with that comparison. But regardless, that had my interest piqued, and I've read something by this author before and really enjoyed it. If you're interested in Libro FM, if you're interested in Changing Hands, I'll have all of that linked. But let's go ahead and jump into some other used bookstores. We'll actually start with Changing Hands, and then we'll segue out of it because I did get something from Changing Hands in physical form recently. That would be The Voyage of the Damned. You can see here the way that they do it is they have a lot of new books available at this store, and you can use, anytime you bring in books and you accumulate credit, you can use that credit on things in the store. But anytime they have something that's used and discounted, you will see a little sticker on the spine. This is a pretty standard practice for a lot of used bookstores. And then you can see what the sale price is. This is an Illumicrate special edition of this book, and it was on sale for $14.95. And a friend of ours was with us, and I thought, oh, this is a book I'm interested in. It was a new release that I had wanted to check out. I never got a chance to. And it had recently been my birthday. So my friend's like, let me get that for you. I was like, no, it's totally fine. And then they're like, no, I'm buying it. So my friend, Marcus, thanks for buying this book for me. I really hope I enjoy it, because if I don't, I'm going to feel bad because it feels like a rejection of a birthday present. But because it's a special edition, it does have sprayed edges here. And if you open it up, it does have a fun design on the naked hardback. There is some artwork here on the inside, which I think is really cute. If I understand correctly, this is kind of like a fantasy version of Knives Out, which I've not seen, but I'm familiar with the concept, kind of like a whodunit closed room sort of situation, except for on a ship. And then on the back, they have the design there as well. Anyway, thanks Marcus for this, and also thanks Changing Hands for, as always, being a fantastic used bookstore. I am grateful to Changing Hands, and I am thankful, but I don't know why I said that as if Changing Hands is watching, like, the bookstore itself is watching the video. Anyway, moving on. Next up is a first book from a new bookstore that opened up by where I live called Book Off. And it's really exciting because Book Off actually has a lot of manga. I don't really talk about manga here on this channel. I do talk about it on my side channel. So if you are interested in seeing a manga haul, I did do one of those recently. And I also may have mentioned the awesome Arcane art book in that haul. If you're interested in seeing that, my husband got that for me for my birthday. Also, I recently worked with a company called Manga Mart, and they're fantastic. This mentioning of them is not part of me working with them. I was just so excited to work with them, and I think they're a great company that I wanted to shout them out again. So if you're interested in Manga Mart, it is a family-owned retailer that is able to supply manga for a lot less than what you would typically find them for, and you get a good amount of discounts on pre-orders, and they also gave me some discount codes as well. So if you want to save money and you're a manga fan, check out Manga Mart. They're fantastic. Back to Book Off though. So Book Off has a huge manga and comic book collection for how small of a bookstore they are, but they also have books in general as well. And a lot of you know one of my favorite books that I picked up recently would be The Stationery Shop. There's a few different editions of this book, and this was the one that I was on the hunt for after reading it and loving it, and I wasn't really finding it anywhere, so I just figured, okay, I'm going to keep looking for it. I then found it at Book Off, but originally, which you can't really see it, but originally under this sticker, it showed it for $24.50, and I was thinking, well, I don't have any store credit here because this store is brand new, and that makes sense for the price, but also it's kind of a lot. You know, I try not to spend too much if I can, so I was like, I'll wait and see. And eventually they marked it down to $10. I don't really know why. I don't know if they meant for it to be $10 initially, but I keep popping into that store periodically, seeing what they have. Because it's newer, it's kind of fun to see it go from its grand opening to sort of getting its feet firmly on the ground. So I popped in again, and it was only $10, and I was like, okay, I'll get it for $10, and it's a nice hardback. It's the edition I've been wanting and looking for, so I'm so excited to have a physical copy of this book. I thought it was great. For the books that I have read, if you are interested in hearing more thoughts about them or any reviews or anything like that, I'll have relevant videos in the description bar, which is true for this next one. I did a solo review for it. I thought it was absolutely amazing, and that would be To Shape a Dragon's Breath. I adored this book. I thought it was fantastic, and I recently was on the hunt for this one as well, similar to The Stationery Shop, as it was one of my favorite books of the first quarter. So just like The Stationery Shop, I would pop in to local bookstores, see if they had it, and the bookstore Bookman's had it. Usually Bookman's has everything used. Almost everything is used in their stores. It's kind of the opposite of Changing Hands, which most things are new, and then occasionally you'll have the stickers that show that something is used. With Bookman's, there's no stickers because almost everything is used, and you just kind of open it up, and they usually have the price written on the inside in pencil. And this one was not used. I did have credit though, so I was able to get this one. Luna just grumbled. She's in the room with me, as always. But anyway, so it is a new copy, and it was a new copy price, which is fine, and had credit, but it took up a lot of my credit. I was actually hoping to get something else when I was walking around the bookstore. I had some puzzles and other things, and then when I got my credit back, I was like, oh, that's not enough for a lot of what I was hoping to get. So I got this one, though, because it was highest priority of the things I had in my hands. But I absolutely loved this book. I'm so excited to have a copy. Now I just need to go, because I had originally read it from the library, I need to take the tabs that I put in from the library copy. They're the little ones that come off really easily. I would not mark up a library copy, but I need to transfer them over so I can return the library copy and then actually have my tabs in this physical copy of mine. Next up is a self-published book that I decided to check out on a little bit of a whim. I don't know if it's going to work out for me or not, but I thought that the premise sounded really fun. There is a sort of parental relationship, mentor-mentee relationship in the story that is supposed to be really meaningful and a big part of it. It is a fantasy story. I also was really impressed because the author actually does the illustrations for the covers of the books themselves, which I thought was really, really cool. So this is the book. I thought that this edition really, really looked amazing. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is a young adult series. I can just tell that holding this up is making everything look super green. Certain colors throw the camera off, so sometimes I feel bad holding things up because it feels like it's messing with everything. But this is the first book in this series. I think it's a young adult story, and the main character ends up forming this bond with this mentor father-like figure. So I'm really excited for this one. I do find that a lot of young adult has gone in a different direction than what it was when I was a younger age, and it kind of seems like this one feels like a return to sort of that classic sort of young adult fantasy feel. So I'm hopeful that that is the case, and I really hope I like it. Next up, we have some special edition pre-orders that came in, and first we have Kikis delivery service. A lot of you know I'm a huge fan of Studio Ghibli. I know some people say Studio Ghibli, so whichever you say, but I absolutely love everything by that film studio, and a lot of the films are based, of course, in works of fiction. So for example, Howl's Moving Castle was originally a book, which I'm sure many people are aware of, but I think a lot of people are less aware that Kiki's Delivery Service was originally a book. And I have been going through, over on my side channel, Full Meta Analysis, all of the films from that studio and doing discussions with my friends. And before we discussed Kiki's Delivery Service, I wanted to check out the book. This is a translation, and the idea for how it came to be is so cute. It was this woman whose daughter had drawn something, and the mom decided to make a story around the daughter's drawing, and that's kind of how Kiki's Delivery Service emerged, which I think is so sweet and wholesome. And that's a perfect way to describe the story itself as well. There is a sense of melancholy too. And if you've seen Kiki's Delivery Service or read the book, well, this first book doesn't really showcase the melancholy aspects as much as the movie, but it's great. It's so sweet and so precious, but this particular copy that Fairy Loot put out does sort of match what they did with Howl's Moving Castle. So I was so excited to see that they were doing special editions of these. The edges are really, really cute, and they match the front cover, and then the artwork goes onto the back, and then when you open it up, the inside has these really pretty little clouds and skyline look. If you look at the naked hardback though, the naked hardback is so, so pretty. It kind of has that classic feel to it, and I think it's so nice. So you kind of see the daytime look here on the sleeve and this more nighttime look on the front cover. It feels almost like it's painted on as well, rather than being that sort of shiny feel that a lot of the naked hardbacks have. It has more of a textured feel to it, so it does give the look of being hand painted. I think it's gorgeous. Sticking with some special edition middle grade stories, this was my childhood dream. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. So I only just recently actually did a video discussing how much I loved this series growing up, which would be The Song of the Lioness, which follows the stories of Alana. And Illumicrate recently was doing sort of an anniversary sort of a feature where they were taking different stories and they were making their anniversary editions of them. And this was one of the series that was selected. There have been so many different versions of the story. So I have the ones that I had as a kid. They're these black paperbacks, and I just always really loved the artwork on those. I also have a bind up of all of them, and it has the artwork that looks more like classic fantasy. There are other editions that I think are really fun. There's some editions that I think are hideous. So, you know, not everyone is a winner in my opinion, but the point is these are gorgeous. These editions are gorgeous, and it's just so exciting to see this story get some love. Oh, it makes me so happy. Like I said, my little child heart is joyful over this. So the front covers, absolutely gorgeous artwork, and then the sprayed edges on every single one of them. You open it up, there's artwork on the inside. It makes me so happy to take this off. The artwork on the individual books as well is really, really gorgeous. They each have something different, so I'll go ahead and show each of them so you get to actually see them. Not necessarily going in order, they just are sitting right here, so I'll show them as I have them here. This is the fourth book in the story. They're all numbered on the spine too, which I know so many of us appreciate that feature. Once again, painted edges here. You open it up, there is artwork there, and here is what the naked hardback looks like for this one. It wraps around. This one does have the feel that I was describing from before, the opposite of what the Kikis Delivery Service one felt like, which felt more textured. Those have more of that smooth feel to them. The colors on this one, man, there's just something about this color combination I think is beautiful. I'm a really big sucker for usually blues and greens on covers, but I think this sort of purple and pink color combination, creating this landscape and just this sort of sunset feel, is so pretty. Here are the painted edges there, sprayed edges there. You open it up, there's the artwork, and then you flip it, and here's the naked hardback. Then we have book 2 though, And this one, the greens are so pretty. I love the way that this shines as well. When you hold it up to the light, you can see it has this sort of border around it. And then the title itself shines. This one has this artwork inside it. You open up the sleeve here, and then that is what the naked hardback looks like. I would love if they did, because I've mentioned before, this is part of sort of like a shared universe. And if they did other books within this series, because there's one where a character has more animal-like magic, and the character from this story shows up in that story, and there's a part of me that's like, oh my gosh, what if they did those ones too? That'd be so cool. I would love that. That'd be amazing. And speaking of Illumicrate Special Edition, the Arc of the Scythe, and just like with the Alana series, when you hold it up to the light, you can see there is that border that shines. So artwork on the inside. These are so cool. I love the look of this. Flip it over to the back. They also have different artwork on the back. So unlike with Alana, where it was the same artwork, here you can see it is different artwork when you flip to the back cover. This would be books 2 and 3. I'll go ahead and show what they look like with the artwork and everything as well. They're actually, within this set, they included the additional book that came out. I haven't had a chance to read that one. This is a series that I want to reread at some point, and then when I do, then maybe I'll pick up that additional one as well. But here is the artwork within this, as well as this very beautiful blue on the naked hardback. This is what it looks like here. I really enjoyed the second book in the series. It was probably my favorite. Here is the third book in the story that's really kind of deeper purple color. There is the artwork on the inside, the naked hardback for this one, as well as the artwork on the back cover. As stated, they also did Gleanings, and this is the cover for that one. If you want to see the naked hardback, they ended up kind of going for this lighter blue color. Here is the artwork on the inside of that one, as well as the artwork on the back cover for this one. Switching now to some broken binding editions. Many of us, of course, are huge fans of this company because they really do put in so much work to making these editions beautiful, and they tend to make beautiful editions for works that aren't getting the same kind of attention from other companies, and that's very true for Grave Empire by Richard Swan. I actually thought it was kind of interesting because, if I'm not mistaken, the original trilogy for this world, The Empire of the Wolf, it came out in hardbacks, not necessarily special edition, it came out in hardbacks. And then I think I've seen this continuation story that exists within the same world not come out in hardback, which I thought was kind of an interesting decision because the original came out. So for people that would want them all together, they're not going to necessarily match, although the paperback editions look like they're going to match because that original trilogy does have paperbacks out now. And in comparison to the paperback for Grave Empire that I've seen, it does look like they all go together really, really nicely. So that's nice. It's just, you know, for this sort of consistency people like myself, I like when editions match, even if it's a cross series. If they're written by the same author, I like them to go together. That's sort of a side tangent. Anyway, the Broken Binding, they did a hardcover edition of this. So when you open it up, I showed this in a recent in a recent vlog over on my side channel because I happened to have this on my coffee table and I was doing a manga vlog. So I showed it there. So if you watch that, you've seen this. But the naked hardback of this is unbelievable. I mean, the artwork on this is absolutely stunning. So this is what it looks like on the front. It does wrap around and have more on the back. This does have that more smooth, almost buttery feel to it. And then the sprayed edges, the level of detail on those sprayed edges is borderline baffling. It's amazing. And then they do have incredible art on the inside here, as well as incredible art on the back as well. If I can flip the page. So that's what that back art, the colors are so great. They're amazing. It looks incredible. And I have been reading this one recently. It's been one of my most anticipated releases of the year, so really excited to be reading it now and to have this gorgeous edition. Broken Binding always does a great job, which is true for the next two books that I'm going to show as well. The Liar's Knot, as well as Labyrinth's Heart. So this is the conclusion of this trilogy that they did. They do periodically have special editions for entire series, and rather than just books that are being released, they actually will complete the series, which is another thing I appreciate about their company. I think a lot of times people are hesitant to get special editions for certain things because they worry that the entire series isn't going to be done in that style. So the fact that they commit, I think, really shows that while it's taking a risk, if you do a good job and people like the products you're making, then ultimately it's going to increase the chances that people are going to want to check you out. So I appreciate the commitment that they have. But this would be The Liar's Knot. This is part of the Mask of Mirrors series, and I mentioned the first book in another video that I did at the first book in a different haul. For this book, they have matching bookmarks that were sent as well. And once again, amazing sprayed edges. If you open it up, artwork on the inside, which looks fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful naked hardback. Ah, the way it catches the light. And that color, that sort of purple red color, magenta sort of, I think looks really, really great. Then on the back cover, we have this artwork as well. Once again, a bookmark to match the physical copy for this third one. And the artwork on this is just so cool. Even just the artwork on the sleeves themselves as opposed to just the inside and whatnot. But the design on this, once again, is absolutely gorgeous. We open it up. The artwork on this one is so fun. I think it looks so good. I need to finish this trilogy. I read the first two and I want to go back and reread because it does have a lot of complexity to its magic system and its world building. So I just want to restart the series and then go through and finish it up. And that's the artwork on the back cover. Ugh, Broken Binding just does such a fantastic job on anytime they announce they're doing something. If you like it, it's gonna be a great addition. Next up, we have a couple of books that were sent to me by the publisher. I always appreciate this. It never stops being exceptionally meaningful, and also it makes what I do easier because I do like checking out newer fantasy releases. It can just be difficult to have access to them because I can't run out and buy everything, and sometimes there are waiting lists, of course, through the library, so it really means a lot when they send me copies. One of them would be for The Raven Scholar. One of my patrons actually has already picked this up, and they said they really, really enjoyed it, and that it was really fantastic on the political intrigue side of things, which is all I need to know. I mean, I read the synopsis when I did my anticipated releases video, but just hearing, oh, the political intrigue is fantastic. I love good political intrigue, so I'm really hopeful that I end up enjoying this one as well. And they sent this lovely note as well, and it was so nice, and they were saying that this is one of their favorite books. Not my patron, just to be clear. The publisher. They said that this is one of their favorite books that they've had the honor of working on, and I was like, oh, that's so lovely. I just really appreciate, I think Orbit always does what they can to support their authors, and seeing that in that note I thought was really, really lovely. So thank you to that individual and Orbit in general. I feel like Orbit cares about reviewers and cares about authors and does what they can to support all around. I can't wait. The Raven Scholar, it's one of those where, you know, of course, we all have a never-ending TBR, but that's one where I'm like, oh, that's gotta be up high. I really want to get around to that one. I hope to get around to it before the middle of the year, but I'm like, oh my gosh, the middle of the year is already coming up. It doesn't feel like it. In my head, it's like, oh, that's 6 months in. It's like, well, yeah, it's already almost 6 months in. But I do want to get to that one soon. Sooner rather than later. It sounds fantastic. And then one of my most anticipated releases of the year, which I know this is true for a lot of people as well, we have A Drop of Corruption. This is a sequel to The Tainted Cup. This is the naked hardback. The cover is printed right on the naked hardback, which is, I know, a feature that so many of us really love. And this is by Robert Jackson Bennett. If you're interested in seeing thoughts about the first book, I did do an individual review for that one. But this is a sequel so many of us have been highly anticipating. I'm thinking of doing a video where I read this, another book that I was really excited for this year, and The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, and just kind of combine all of some of my most anticipated releases for the year. I would include Grave Empire in that, but I'll probably finish Grave Empire first and then do a different new fantasy releases video. But I thought one where I have the conclusion to a trilogy, the sequel to a new series, as well as the first book in a new series, and they're all by authors whose works I was super excited for. I think that could be a lot of fun. Regardless, a huge, huge thank you to the publisher for sending me this copy. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I've seen some people already have picked it up and read it, and I'm trying really hard not to see anybody else's thoughts about it. Last for today are a few random things I picked up here and there, 2 of which came from the app Pango, which is essentially a used bookstore in app form. Just like with local bookstores, if you sell things and you get money from that, you can keep it in the app and essentially use it like store credit, which is what I like to do because sometimes there are certain editions that are just near impossible to find at my indie bookstores, but I'll see occasionally sellers selling them on Pango. The French edition of The Sword of Kaigen. This is one of my all-time favorite fantasy standalones. And many of you know I do like having, for my favorite stories, I like having multiple editions. I really like having foreign editions as well, just because I know I can't read it, and to some people that's stupid. It's stupid to have a copy of a book that you can't read. But I just absolutely love seeing artwork from different countries. I like getting to see how the process of putting a book together, the end result is so different from country to country. I've done a few different videos here and there where I compare books from different places, the art styles. Something that is fun to discover about when you do something like that is, for example, on the spine, you can see it actually is written going up, which in the US where I'm from, usually the spine, the text is written down. You also will find that in America, we have a tendency to put stickers on stuff, which drives us all up a wall. And other countries, they have the smart idea of putting this sort of half sleeve paper around, which if you want to keep it, you can. If you want to throw it away, you can. So I much prefer that, but you get to sort of see styles that are different from one place to the next, and how, for example, in some places they have a tendency more often to put things on naked hardbacks, and the material of the books can be different. Anyway, I just think it's awesome. I think it's such a cool, fun way to sort of feel this bridge across the world, if that makes any sense. If you think it's dumb, though, that's okay, I understand. But this is the French edition of Sword of Kaigen, that's kind of the long story short, and I think it is absolutely gorgeous. It's so cool. This is the naked hardback. It does have more of that textured feel rather than the smooth feel. This is the spine. The color choice was really interesting. And then this is the back. They do have, you'll see this in some editions as well, they do have this map here on the front, as well as this artwork here on the back. I do have a copy that has this as the front cover. I absolutely love that artwork. This artwork as well is so pretty. This is what the sprayed edges look like as well. Goes all the way to the top and the bottom. Isn't it pretty? It's so pretty. I love it so much, and this is one of my favorite stories. So getting to see this, and I remember not so long ago, there was this poll, or there was this discussion about some book box company was going to be making a special edition. I can't remember which one it was, and people were saying online what book series they thought should get a feature. And so many people were mentioning the popular things, the things everybody had already done editions of, but they wanted this one book box company to do an edition. And I remember saying, it'd be kind of cool if something like Sword of Kaigen could get attention because it's incredible. I think that the themes within the story are really well executed, and it's a self-pub author, and how cool would that be too? It sort of really helps take away the stigma that self-pub is less than, or that it doesn't deserve to have the attention on it. Another reason Broken Binding is great is because they do give some love to self-pub works. But point is, that was only a few years ago, and since then, M.L. Wong has gone on to write Blood Over Bright Haven, which has become something so many people love. That originally started self-published and then has been picked up, and people are falling head over heels for that, which means people are going back and now falling in love with Sword of Kaigen, and now we're getting all these special editions, and it's just so exciting. I'm so excited for this author to have been able to have their stories reach so many people, and now have so many other talented, amazing artists and designers get to also do what they can to bring the story to life. It's just so fun to see. It's so fun to see. But speaking of Blood Over Bright Haven, since I fell in love with that story this year as well, I recently mentioned that I was on the hunt for the self-pub editions now that it is traditionally published, and I was blown away. I was reached out to, and somebody said, hey, I have a copy if you want a copy. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I now have the paperback edition of Blood Over Bright Haven. Thank you so much for sending this to me. I can't believe it. And I think, unless there are foreign editions that I don't know about, I think now it's just there's a hardback edition that has a certain design on the naked hardback. And so that's I think the last one. Maybe. No, there is another edition. I'm remembering now. There's another edition that's out that's really expensive. And I'm like, oh no. But I don't need to have every edition of it. I just really like this story. And I'm blown away that somebody was nice enough to send me their paperback copy. Thank you so, so much. I'm so excited. And then last for today, I have, in most of the things that I've been talking about, I've read the books that I'm mentioning, and I either found them at local bookstores or they were things that were special editions of some of my favorite stories. This last one today is something I have not read, but I have read other things by this author and really enjoyed them, and this was a special edition that when I saw somebody selling it on Pango and I had credit, I was like, okay, this would be a good opportunity to check that one out. It kind of went under my radar. I'm usually pretty good about knowing when things are coming out, and this one I just didn't know was going to come out, and that would be The Witch Would Not. So this is an author that wrote Half a Soul, which I think is an absolutely darling fantasy story, and there are other books in that series as well. It's sort of like a series of standalones, and the first book was my favorite in it, but it's the same author. This is a special edition of it. It has sprayed edges, and when you open it, there is designs here as well as this design on the naked hardback. So I was really excited for that. Also, I forgot to mention a number of the books that I've talked about today have ribbons in them as well, which includes this one. The ribbon design is actually quite fancy. I feel like usually it's just a simple ribbon, but this one went a little above and beyond and has a design on it, and it feels thicker and sturdier than a lot of the ribbons usually do. So got that one as well. That's it though for this book haul. A number of things that I have gotten as of late, as I said. As noted before, I will have my local and indie bookstores linked in the description bar. Anything that I mentioned where I have reviews, I'll have those as well. If you have thoughts or anything that you want to expand on, feel free to do so. Thanks so much for watching though. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.